In this clip, we're going to talk about how I routed the aileron cable from the wing root to the bell crank. We'll start by cutting out a poster board template that'll match the profile of the rear lower corner of a wing root. Then trace the position of the fair lead from the rib you can actually get a pencil to. Then we'll use that template to mark the position for the holes for the first few ribs up until the flap linkage. They'll be at the same position. From here, you'll find that you need to angle upwards to get to the same height as the bell crank by the aileron actuation mechanism, which is going to require a fair lead to handle the angle change. Here I'm double checking that the hole position that I've established is going to clear the flap mechanism in that respective bay. So now on that same template, I mark where the cable is going to meet the bell crank and establish a position. Measure the difference between that and my original mark for the first few holes in the ribs, and then determine the difference, which is 1 5/8. Now if you do a little bit of math for the distance between the ribs, you can see that each mark needs to be about a 1/4 inch from the neighboring mark. Now I measured to the nearest 64th just to be anal retentive, but you don't have to do that. I think about a 1/4 inch will work. Now if you look at the marks I made, the plus near the top is where the bell crank actually is. And then the first rib is obviously very close to that, so it's not much of a difference. And then about a 1/4 inch down from there will take you back to your original position in the first few ribs. So then I marked, punched, and drilled some pilot holes, marked my unibit, and got to work. So this is the second rib from the bell crank. I got the reinforcement aluminum piece kind of positioned so you can see how that's going to fit. The hole is going to hold this large snap bushing. I've punched out where I want the rivets to go already, traced out everything I want on this plate. So now I'm going to drill a couple of holes and then get this in place, match drill the rest of the holes, take it back off, deburr everything on the plate as well as the rib, and then I'll put it in place with some Klecos, make sure that this cutout matches the plate well enough, and then I will rivet it in. It seems worth noting that the range of motion of the cable is pretty significant at the bell crank and decreases as you get closer toward the flap actuating mechanism. So the first hole is really large, and then I tapered down for a couple of holes using decreasing bushing sizes. That's why you see the large bushing close to the actuation mechanism, and then in the rib adjacent to the actuation mechanism, it's a really large, awkward hole.
Swaged cable runs through the rib here, so I need to keep that open throughout the range of motion. I need a little more clearance here at this end, and then it looks like I'm pretty good out here. I may just give myself a little more clearance, but right now it's pretty close.
So here are a few pictures of what I wound up doing. Kind of an egg-shaped hole that gives me plenty of room for the thimble to pass through the rib. Okay, hopefully you can hear me over the utilities in the background. But now I've got the bell crank hooked to a cable. You can see, don't worry about the bungee cord, that's just for playing purposes. But I've got this hole cut out so everything fits through with a little bit of margin. Put this backer plate in. Then we'll go to the next, the largest bushing, with another backer plate. You can see they get smaller as we go. Whoops, there's no fair lead here. I'll fix that later. And this is the straight shot out to the fair lead. In the other wing I put a fair lead right here because it kind of starts to angle upward a little bit there. I'm going to take some time now to put these fairlead holders in. This one pops in pretty straightforward. This one, however, you have to take a couple of bolts out so that this can come up and you can access the holder there for these little gizmos.